Hello, Blue Jays fans. Welcome to episode 292 of the Jays from the Couch radio podcast. Hello, welcome to another week of Blue Jays Talk. I'm your host as always, Shaun Doyle. You can follow me on Twitter at JFtC. We've got a great episode for you this week. As always, what else would you expect? But before we get there, I want to take a minute to thank everybody for joining us for yet another episode, whether it's on Apple or Google or Spotify, listening to the audio version, or you're tuning in live right now on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. We really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. You continue to come back week after week, and we really appreciate it. Again, I'm your host as always, Shaun Doyle, and I wanted to just drop some information off to you. If you ever want to join the show live, of course you can. Tune in, send in your questions and comments and all that stuff. But if you are busy, if you're not able to make it, don't worry. You can send them, hit us a tweet at Jays from Couch, or send us an email even. If anybody emails anymore, info@jaysfromthecouch.com. And joining me, it would not be an episode of the Jays from the Couch radio podcast without my co-hosts every week. First of all, host of the On-Fect Circle, Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, the feckless wonder himself, Steve. Good evening.
Hey, Shaun, how are you?
I'm doing just great. How about yourself?
Great. I like the new theme music. Very nice.
Yeah, it's a little, little ditty, right? As they say, as the kids say or something. I don't know if kids even say that anymore, but
not P.
Anyway. P. Diddy, right. Okay. Yes, something like that. Okay, we need some help. Karen, host of Sunny Side of the Dome. Karen, where are you? There you are. Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Hi, Karen. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm not doing too badly. And as well, we're just going to make him part of our weekly show here. Lionheart on YouTube. Good day. Hello, Lionheart. Thank you so much for watching for yet another week. We really appreciate it. So we've got a great episode this week. Our MLB Minute segment, we're going to discuss the AL East MLB rule changes, as well as we welcome host of the Locked On Yankees podcast, Stacey Gotsulias, back to the show to get their thoughts on why it is the Yankees will finish behind the Blue Jays this year. And we wrap up episode 292 with our ever popular fake news segment. So without further ado, I will bring in our guest for this week, Stacey Gotsulias of the Locked On Yankees podcast. Good evening. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing just fine. Thank you for asking. Thanks for coming back on the show. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Hope you're doing well.
I am. Yeah. I'm excited baseball's back. I was mad when it was gone, and now that we're getting closer and closer to opening day, I'm getting more and more excited.
So, okay, I'm just going to ask you right up front. Were you team owners or team players?
Players.
Yeah, okay.
I would never side with the owners.
Okay, cool. You can stay.
Yeah.
No, it was a bizarre scenario playing out, just because I don't know about you, but for me it was, I don't know, I don't want to say obvious, but that we were not going to miss much baseball this year, that they were going to get a deal done. There's just too much money involved to not get a deal, right? So I was, watching and going, okay, yeah, whatever. Yeah, this person said that person said this. And then next thing I know, I'm right, like I get tense. I'm like, this may not happen. What's going on?
Yeah.
So throughout the whole process, when you were following along with that, was there ever a point where you thought the season was in danger?
Oh, yeah. Not the whole season, but I was envisioning, like a June 15th opening day, something crazy like that.
Right.
Just because of how 2020 played out and how contentious that was, and trying to get the season started then with all the COVID shutdowns and everything. And the way they were going back and forth there, it felt like a preview of what was going to happen this year. And that was scary. And it was pretty funny because my co-host and I were talking about our fears of them not starting the season till at least June. And then I think it was literally the next day they announced that they reached a deal. And I was like, all right, maybe I did a reverse jinx or something, but that was a good day.
That's always the way, right? You say something on the podcast, and then the next day something big happens to go against it. It's ridiculous, but that's life. So, with regard to the CBA, then, in your mind, what do you think is the best possible outcome that came from that agreement?
Well, I don't know. I feel like some things should have been done that weren't done. I feel like there needs to be a salary floor instead of a luxury tax, because I feel like some teams are really getting away with not paying for anything. I saw something, was it Jock Peterson tweeted last week that showed the Dodgers, the Yankees, and who's the third? I can't remember the third team. Oh, the Mets. Of course, that's right. Hello, Steve Cohen. And then it showed the Pirates, the Orioles, and who was now I can't think of the third bottom team. But it was just funny to me that there are literal players making more in a year than those teams are paying for their entire payroll. And I think that's a bigger problem than anything happening in the upper echelon. Most of these guys have the money to pay for people on their teams, and they won't do it. And that's what I find annoying about the whole thing. That's why I'm totally pro player. And, there was all these figures coming out about in relation to like revenue and how much guys are spending. And, everyone's talking about the Yankees payroll always being high, but compared to it hasn't changed much in 16 years. And their revenues are getting higher and higher, and the payroll is just staying the same, and it's not moving with the revenue, and it's not jiving with me at all. So I don't know, something needs to be done about the money situation. I'm just glad it's all over with, though, because we needed baseball back. There's too much
for sure.
Stuff happening in the world that we need to be distracted from.
Agreed. And it's interesting, too, because those teams that are on the bottom of the spending pile, we'll call it, those are the teams who are going to take advantage of the younger part of players' careers, and then those players are going to go play elsewhere typically, and then they're going to start making the money, and then these teams get the best years for the best dollars, and then they never have to spend anymore. So I think there is a lot of validity to the floor. I don't know if I'm an owner who's miserly, let's say, am I really going to vote for that?
No, of course not.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. We can dream.
I'll let New York pay them.
Yeah.
So with the new CBA, there's all of the talk about rule changes. Anything from pitch clocks to robo-umps to bases being bigger. Today I read the bases. Second base being moved in because apparently when the game was first invented, they couldn't do math properly, and it ended up just that looks good. So there are rules changes coming. I guess for you, I'd like to know, is there a few that stand out to you? Like, do you like the universal DH or expanded playoffs?
I like the universal DH because
Excuse me.
You do have the occasional pitcher home run, the occasional pitcher hit, but for the most part, watching a pitcher try to do anything at the plate is just, it's not fun. It really isn't. I do like the idea of if a pitcher wants to hit and be the DH and stay in a game as the DH, they should be able to do that. Or they shouldn't lose the DH and make another pitcher hit in his spot. They should be able to put a regular player in there. But I love the universal DH, and that's just great. Plus, first time I decided to score a game after decades of not doing it, I did it at a National League game in 2012, which was the dumbest thing ever because of all the changes and the double switches and no. So I'm glad that that's done. The base thing I find interesting, making the bases bigger, because, when you first see that, you just automatically want to make a joke about it. But then when they say why they did that, it kind of makes sense. And you think, okay. And I just saw the thing about second base, and I didn't realize that second base has been in the wrong spot for 135 years. So that's interesting to find out. Yeah. But I like the universal DH.
Right.
It'll prolong a lot of people's careers too. That's why we're seeing Albert Pujols coming back. And I do wonder about the guys who have retired recently, who were in their late 30s, early 40s, and when the DH wasn't around and they've been out for a few years now, how they feel about that, because their careers could have been prolonged maybe a little bit if they were able to DH instead of, not being able to do anything. And having all the teams have DHs really opens up a big market for that. So it's interesting.
Right, and the first name that keeps jumping to my mind is Edwin Encarnacion. Is one of those guys who you think would have, a few more years, maybe a couple, in him if there was that switch to the National League.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, now we're going to get a little more specific. I need you to kind of walk me through how the season is going to go as it looks right now, obviously, with regard to the Yankees and the vaccine issue, because, entering Canada is an issue. So are we going to be seeing, games, entire series without Aaron Judge, for example? And not that I'm complaining, of course, if that were to happen. But so maybe you could kind of shed some light on that, because all I see right now is a little giddy smile on my face when the Yankees come to town.
Well, it's not just the Yankees. You have Red Sox players.
Right.
So, Chris Sale came out and said, "No, I didn't get it." And they're so proud too. It's just so funny. There was the possibility, although we knew this wasn't going to happen, but as of a week ago, there was the possibility that Yankees and Mets players wouldn't be able to play at home, like Kyrie Irving wasn't able to play at home for all that time. And then Eric Adams decided suddenly to lift the mandate and say, oh, no, it's perfectly fine for entertainers and athletes to not have to, get the vaccine, and they can do whatever they want, after firing a bunch of city workers for not getting the vaccine. So it's fun times in New York. As for the Canada thing, when spring training started, Aaron Boone said there were a couple of players to worry about, because the Yankees had one of the higher numbers of vaccinated. They were above the 85% threshold last season. So most of them were vaccinated. I believe it was Judge, Higashioka, Rizzo. Those are the three. Judge is the thing that bothers me is they're considering him the face of the Yankees now. He's, about to possibly be offered a really big extension. And I have a real problem with someone who's supposedly going to be the face of the franchise refusing to do something that's going to help his teammates. Because if you can't play in Canada for 10 games, that's a big swing in your division. It's not like Toronto's in the AL West and it doesn't matter, because it's not that it doesn't matter, but they're in the same division, and that's a big swing there. And it bothers me a lot. I'm not happy about it. It's very annoying. But yeah, it's not just the Yankees. There's a bunch of Mets that aren't vaccinated. There are a bunch of Red Sox that aren't vaccinated. So yeah, Toronto could have a field day in division with, guys being missing from those games. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
So is there talk in New York, maybe not necessarily from the team itself, but from fans? Like, are they upset that this rule is in place and that it gives Toronto a hypothetical advantage?
Depends on if they're anti-vax or pro-vax, because you have the anti-vax faction, or, all about freedom, not about fear. And then you have someone like me who's vaccinated and boosted. And, if I need to get a shot every 6 months to stop myself from getting COVID and, being hospitalized, I'll do it. So it depends on your stance, because there are some Yankee fans who stick up for Aaron Judge and say it's his right to do what he wants to do with his body. And, it's not just about you getting the vaccine. You're trying to help other people not get COVID. So that whole thing just bothers me. But yeah, it's split depending on how you fall, which category you fall into. Yeah.
Right. And that's not a surprise, given that's pretty much how it is in every context.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to throw it over to Karen here for you.
Hey, Stacey. So I have a couple of questions. One, it's kind of a two-part question. So do the first one first. So what do you think of the Yankees, the moves that they've made in the offseason? Do you feel that on paper right now it makes them better, worse, or pretty much the same as in 2021?
I'm upset that there were so many guys available that the Yankees could have gotten, and they didn't get one of them. Not a single one of them. They're putting way too much pressure on Anthony Volpe right now. That poor kid has to be the second coming of Jesus at this point, because if he isn't, Yankee fans are going to remember the winter of 2021, 2022 when they passed over Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, Carlos Correa, Trevor Story, and the fact that Correa was signed by Minnesota because the Yankees took $50 million of Josh Donaldson's contract off their hands makes it even worse. And then Trevor Story signs with the Red Sox. So it's just, are they the same? Yes. There are some question marks about pitching, obviously, because who knows how Luis Severino is going to do. If Gleyber Torres can hit the ball again, and if DJ LeMahieu is completely healthy, because he obviously was not last season, and if he can do anything close to what he did in 2019, that helps the lineup instantly. But I feel like they're the same. They're not, I don't think they're worse, but I don't think they got any better during the winter. No.
Right. Okay, fair enough. As my other cat appreciates her comments. And yes, so the good segue there into part B of my question. So what are your thoughts specifically on the acquisition of former Blue Jay Josh Donaldson? We all know how good a player he still is when he's healthy, but now
that's
the
caveat.
And so forth. The other thing that I was wondering about is there have been rumors that he's not always the greatest guy in the clubhouse. Do you see him fitting in with the rest of the Yankees?
I hope so. It is interesting to see how much the Yankees have changed just by getting rid of Gary Sanchez and Gio Urshela. Gio Urshela was loved by all the guys in that clubhouse. Gary to an extent too, but Gio always had a smile on his face. He was always just like happy-go-lucky, excited to be there because no one expected him to break out the way they did. I mean, they got him for nothing.
Yeah.
And
you're welcome, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Thank you, guys. The Josh Donaldson thing, my initial reaction to the whole thing was just shock, especially because of what happened between him and Cole last season. I just thought that was hilarious. And I don't know. I know he's a fiery guy, but I feel like some of the Yankees need that fieriness in the clubhouse. And without Brett Gardner there, I think that Donaldson can kind of step in there. And I know some people will say, well, he just became a Yankee, he shouldn't do that. But no, he's been around and he's a veteran. And I think he has the right to do that, and I don't see any brawls happening. I don't see like a Bronx Zoo situation. like the late 70s brawls that happened between Yankees and their managers and, players on the team.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see. But, as you said, it's the health thing. And when he's healthy, I mean, I would love to have 30 home runs coming from third base. That'd be great. So, but it's the Yankees and they always have health issues, which is another reason why I couldn't believe they made the trade for him. So I don't know. If I could interview Brian Cashman, I would just be like, why? Just tell me why. I don't know. I don't get it, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with him.
Interesting. Your comment, just a little comment before we move over to Steve. I don't know if you heard about this or not, but back in 2015, which is Donaldson's first season with the Jays after they traded for him, and the team was kind of scuffling on the field a little bit, and he made what is now a pretty famous quote in Toronto sports circles. He said, "This isn't the try league, this is the get it done league." And when you talk about maybe that's the sort of thing that the Yankees need to fire them up, I mean, that's a part of who he is. So
yeah, there's some guys who seem a little too passive. I mean, I don't want a Paul O'Neill again where they're beating up water coolers for no reason, but it's good to have someone fiery. I feel like they've been missing that since CC retired, so it'd be good to have someone step back into that role.
We will see.
Yeah.
Well, Stacey, it's great to have you here.
Thank you.
I mean, just so you know, I am a Jersey boy, that grew up a Red Sox fan before the Blue Jays were there. So my inner hatred of the Yankees might run deeper than it does other places here on the show.
Mm-hmm.
But I really wanted to ask you about the Yankees' sustainability, given the fact that they keep trading away and they draft well and they're great on the international market, but then they always seem to trade away these guys, for name players like Jamison Tyon or Joey Gallo or Rizzo. I mean, even like I live in Pittsburgh. 2/3 of their rotation got traded by the Yankees and Uhiri and Contreras just to get Jamison Tyon, who is a great pitcher, but you never really know. I mean, can the Yankees sustain being competitive without having to take a step back? And I know that's like heresy to say that about New York, but
yeah, I mean, they've done it. They haven't had a losing season since I was in high school. I graduated 30 years ago. And it's always funny when people talk about, people always are trying to predict how the Yankees are going to do. Oh, this will be the year they finally finish under 500. Like this is some sort of goal that people want them to reach or at some point. But I don't know. I feel like Brian Cashman's kind of coasting a little bit because he's been around for so long, because, he really didn't have anything to do with the dynasty teams. That was all Gene Michael and Bob Watson. And he kind of inherited that. And yeah, he made some good moves. And, when Steinbrenner opened his checkbook in 2008 and was just like, get everyone on this team, that was the last time they won. I don't know. I feel like they're probably going to be one of those teams that always makes the playoffs but doesn't win for a while, because it's been that way for a while. There have been a few years where they haven't made the playoffs, but they haven't been so bad that, they're not like a Baltimore where they, lose 100 games or anything like that. And they don't do what the Red Sox do, where, the Red Sox were terrible in 2012, and then they come back the next year and win the World Series. Like, the Yankees will never allow themselves to do that. And I feel like sometimes, for two instances, there needs to be a hard reset just to get everything, kind of fix it and start from scratch in a way. And this fan base needs it. I say it all the time. Some of these kids have no idea what it's like to root for a horrible Yankees team. I do. I sat through 1990. Okay. Andy Hawkins pitches a no-hitter and still loses 4-0. I mean, talk about horrible. So when these kids are always like 2016 and 2013 and 2014 were horrible. No. No. So some part of there's an evil part of me that wants them to be so bad that these kids experience this. And when I say kids, I mean people in their 30s who have no idea. So yeah.
Okay. And just a little tie into the, what my original question would be is there a plan B if one of their starters get hurt? Because I look at their system, right? I mean, I don't see where it is.
No,
I mean, all of their plan Bs are on other teams. So
yeah.
What do you think what would the Yankees do to have to bring in a pitcher, do you think?
They might do their whole let's coast until either the All-Star break or just before the trade deadline and try to get someone thing that they've done in past years. But that's always worked for them because the other teams in the division weren't as good. Where now, the only team in the division that's not good is Baltimore. You're going to have a 4-team dogfight in the AL East no matter what. That's just a guarantee. A couple might pull away at the end, but they're all going to be close. So, there is no plan B. And I think that that's what they want to do. They want to try and coast until the trade deadline. And if something like that happens where they need someone, they'll probably do something when the trade deadline happens. I'm sorry, the sun is
That's okay.
suddenly blinding.
Ask the Blue Jays how that worked out for them last year.
Yeah.
Coasting until the trade deadline and finishing one game behind.
So. Yeah, and that's the other thing. I mean, that's the thing about the AL East. It's all so close. I mean, all those teams, except for the Rays, but the Red Sox, the Yankees, and the Blue Jays were all bunched up there, and anyone could have. It just was. It was fun, but stressful. I kind of like it, but kind of don't.
and I would be okay if 2022 was one of those years, that your younger Yankee fans got to experience.
They're not going to be that bad. They're not going to.
Well, I'm just saying I'd be okay with it. That's all.
But they're not. They're not. The year that they should have done that was 2019 when they had 30 guys go on the IL. And for some reason, every person that came up and they plugged in was unbelievable. And they won 103 games. Like, how does that even happen? Any other team, your team, what was it, 2012 where everyone got hurt? Was it 2012 or 2013? Like the entire team got hurt. And you guys were just, it didn't make sense to me at all how that happened, because usually if half a team gets injured, they just, the bottom drops out and you fall out of the standings. And so I
know there was one year when the entire rotation, except for one pitcher, got hurt in less than a week.
I think it was 2012. I think it was 2012 or 2011, somewhere around there, because I was at a game with a Blue Jays fan who was just like, I can't, she was at Yankee Stadium with me. Like, I can't even, who are these people? Because everyone's hurt. Like, what is going on? She's like, we've had like 3 guys get hurt in the last 4 days. I'm like, oh, that's.
Yeah. It must have been the same year then, because a couple of them were already out. We live in a condo. I had gone out to put some garbage down the garbage chute, and I got back, and my husband, who loves to kid me about the Blue Jays, he said, they just had to pull the starting pitcher. I'm like, okay, I don't know if he's joking or not. I took one look at the TV and saw the looks on the faces of the players, and I knew that he was serious. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
And a situation like that where the Yankees suffer so many injuries, but then, as you said, people come in and they don't miss a beat, win 103 games. That's exactly why fan bases hate the Yankees.
Right.
If they're not, if they're not buying a championship and buying everybody, or making, the trades where you get Giancarlo Stanton for next to nothing, things like that, and then pure dumb luck, and the Yankees win 103 games. Like it's an odd experience. It has to be an odd experience being a Yankees fan. It has to be, because really you can do no wrong. Your team can do no wrong.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well,
you've obviously never experienced New York sports radio. They could win 103 games and they're all still bums. So it's a total. Oh yeah. If you think I'm insufferable, on all of our shows and podcasts, that's nothing compared to New York radio.
Oof, it is. Right. Yeah, it is rough. I don't listen to it. I can't, because I want to smack my head into a wall when I listen to some of these people and the way they overreact to everything, which is why I said what I said earlier. Some of these people need some humbling.
Well, and I would be okay, again, I'll say it again, if it was this year. And actually that kind of brings me to the next question. So I'm going to ask you the opposite, but first I'll ask you, why are the Yankees going to win the division this year?
That would be a miracle. I don't see that happening, but why? The other teams suffer a lot of injuries and can't plug into other positions, and they kind of fall out of the way. That's the only way I could see it happening. I'm usually good at predicting how they're going to do. In the last 3 seasons, I've just been flummoxed. I'm like, I can't figure it out at all. There have been years I've gotten the record exactly. 2007, I jokingly said, I'm like, they're going to finish 94 and 68. People were like, and they did. 2014, I wrote an article for ESPN, part of the Sweet Spot blog, and I predicted they were going to be 84 and 78. I had people so mad at me. How dare you say they're only going to win 84? What did they finish that year? On the nose, 84 and 78. I should have bet it, but I didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
So then why won't they win the division?
Because they didn't do enough to win it. They didn't make enough moves to win it, and they were depending on people they shouldn't have depended on to win it.
Who would be the one person, if you could pick one person that they are depending on that they shouldn't? Who would that be?
Aaron Hicks.
Can't stay healthy, right?
No. And he was saying something today about being a 30-30 guy. I'm like, try playing in 30 games. Okay. And then talk about maybe being a 30-30 guy. Baby Unless he meant 30 games. But that's not what he meant.
Okay. All right. So We are just about out of time. Karen's got one last thing here.
I just wanted to jump in. So if it doesn't work out in the Yankees' favor this year and they don't win the AL East division, who do you think will?
Well, I'm thinking it's going to be between the Jays, and the Rays are always there, no matter who is on that team. I kind of miss the days of the Tampa Bay Devil Rays when they were just bad. Kind of want to go back to that, just because I feel like their business model is making other owners think, oh, well, we don't have to spend money either. Look at the Rays. So I don't know. But you know what? Honestly, though, I am rooting for the Jays, even though them winning the division and them winning a World Series means my team doesn't. But, it's been a while. And I would like to see Toronto celebrate a World Series win. I will tell a quick story. Joe Carter's home run, I was at a pool hall, and I had to explain to my friends why I was freaking out because none of them knew anything about sports. And I had to explain the walk-off home run and the fact that he hit a walk-off home run to win a World Series. And then they were all like, oh, wow. Like, then they kind of got it. But yeah, I remember that night really well. So I would like another celebration in Toronto, like when the Raptors won. I would like to see Toronto go kind of bonkers for work, because that's a team up there. They're fun to watch too. Like if I weren't a Yankee fan, I would probably root for Toronto. So just so you know, because they're fun, fun and young, and yeah. So.
Yeah, it's going to be a good season, I think, for Blue Jays fans, of course. After we've had a few years of not fun baseball. But what I'm really looking forward to is the Yankees and Blue Jays all year, and even the Rays too. I think that for some reason I keep dismissing the Red Sox, even though Steve will always tell me. He always tells me don't count the Red Sox out.
No.
But I really do think that the division, it's going to be so much fun when these teams get together, because there's right from opening day, it's going to be a dogfight, and every game is going to be fun because it's going to have two fan bases on the edge of their seats, and I think that's great for baseball. But obviously it'll be great for the Blue Jays as well. So, Stacey, before I let you go, I want to, first of all, thank you again for coming back on the show. We'd love to have you anytime, but let everybody know how they can follow you and catch your stuff on the podcast.
Well, if you ever want to hear me talk about the Yankees, and as you can tell from this appearance, I don't wear pinstriped glasses. I call them out on their BS. And, I actually have Red Sox fans who listen to my show and like it, which is really frightening. So you can find me at Locked On Yankees on Twitter, Instagram. We're on YouTube. We're on every podcasting platform available. And, if you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm kind of wacky over there. It's Stace Gots, because Stacey Gotsulias is too long. So.
And it's a great follow, I have to say. I enjoy following you on Twitter, and I enjoy the work that you do over there. So once again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll chat soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Take care.
Enjoy Duran.
Thank you.
And that was Stacey Gotsulias of the Locked On Yankees podcast. I really do enjoy the honest approach that Stacey brings to the Yankees. You don't hear that too often from podcasters and whatnot, so it's refreshing to have her on here. But of course, you know what that brings us to. We're going to put a ribbon on episode 292 of the podcast here with our ever popular fake Blue Jays news. I can't wait. Before we get there, to Steve and to Karen, thank you both as well. Let everybody know how they can follow you, and maybe a little heads up about what's coming up on your shows this week. Steve, we'll start with you on the On Feck Circle.
Okay, well, you can follow me at Feckless Wonder on Twitter. I'm a proud holder of an email address now, fecklesswonder@jaysfromthecouch.com. And I mentioned that because technically our fantasy league is full, though I'm willing to hold back and add another 2 teams, but you're going to have to do it in the next couple of days. So you can send an email to fecklesswonder@jaysfromthecouch.com. If you send it to info@jaysfromthecouch.com, I'm sure the info will get to me as well. It's going to be a blast. I think it's no better way for Blue Jay fans to not only talk Blue Jays, but also talk Major League Baseball. Now, on my On Feck Circle tomorrow night, we do have another Blue Jays bedtime story. and we're going to talk about why the Blue Jays picked Dunedin. Now, some of it was because there's not a whole lot of other options they had back in 1976, 77, but there's some cool stories behind why they ended up picking Dunedin. But we're also going to talk about expectations, because for those of you that didn't catch it, Buster Olney has predicted that the Blue Jays will defeat the Atlanta Braves in the World Series. So aside from the fact that that's going to just totally unleash all the worst in the Blue Jays fan base, I want to say we should have expectations and don't say we just want to make the playoffs. But I also want to have some reasons where you need to maybe pull back just a little bit. Okay, we're not going to go 161-1. Admittedly, nobody is yet to say they're going to be 162 wins and no losses, but I think 161-1 is a little bit too much. So that's tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, 161 is too much. Maybe 160, but Karen, the sunny side of the dome, Thursdays at 6 p.m. How can everybody follow you and all that?
Yes, I'm addicted to Twitter. I'm there often, and my Twitter handle is pretty much the same as what you see there. It's at Karen Sutar1. And as I said, I'm often there, love to talk baseball, other things with mutual respect and so forth. And sunny side of the dome on Thursday, I got a little carried away last week talking about the additions, and that pretty much took up the whole show. So what I intended to do last Thursday is probably what I will do this Thursday, and talk about what I think the outlook for the season is. And you guys all also reminded me, when you talk about 161-1, I remember back in the 90s when the Yankees had just had a phenomenal season, won the World Series, and then they traded for Roger Clemens, who had won 2 Cy Youngs in a row with the Blue Jays. And I heard a story where George Steinbrenner said to Joe Torre, "Has anyone ever gone undefeated?" And Joe Torre said, "No, George, and no one ever will." And that is not fake news, at least as far as I know.
Well, what does Joe Torre know?
More than George Steinbrenner, apparently.
Well, I mean, yeah, low bar there. But anyway, yeah, all right, it's time. I am so excited. Jays from the Couch proudly presents Fake Blue Jays News. Steve, over to you.
Thank you, Shaun. One topic we didn't get to talk to Stacey G about was the announcement by Yankee managing partner Hank Steinbrenner that there is serious consideration being given to changing the name of their flagship propaganda platform, the Yes Network. Steinbrenner noted that since the network is now home to the Brooklyn Nets of the NBA and the New York Liberty of the WNBA, the New York City Football Club of Major League Soccer, and is in part owned by Sinclair Broadcasting and Amazon, the designation of Yankees entertainment and sports seemed too narrow. Not to mention the fact that the Yankees' legitimate hopes to win a World Series over the next decade seems more like a no than a yes. But some names under consideration are CCN, the Cash Cow Network, the Star Athlete Shopping Network, and Fortunes Unlimited, or FU for short. It seems everyone is talking about the Will Smith-Chris Rock slapping incident during Sunday night's Oscar telecast, but an even uglier face slap occurred a week earlier at the Blue Jays training complex in Dunedin. Multiple sources are reporting that during the meeting between GM Ross Atkins and former Jays outfielder Randall Grichuk after the latter's trade to the Colorado Rockies, the Grits that stole millions grew angry after learning who he was traded for. A source close to Grichuk said he was happy for an opportunity to be a starter for the Rockies until Atkins told him the Blue Jays would be a better team with Raimel Tapia replacing him as the fourth outfielder. Randall could understand if Rockies had traded Charlie Blackmon or German Marquez or Ryan McMahon for Grichuk, the source revealed, but he considered being traded for Tapia and having the Jays pay half his salary an insult. Grich thought he owed it to his former teammates to try to slap some sense into Ross. Now, to Atkins' credit, he downplayed the incident, joking to fellow executives that the Grichuk assault represented the most improved launch angle and exit velocity the player registered while wearing a Blue Jays uniform. Over to you, Shaun.
And that's actually very interesting because there seem to be conflicting reports because I had heard he swung and missed.
Maybe he cracked Shapiro too for his last double play in the uniform. When you said CCN, I thought you were going to say as a tribute to CC Sabathia, but I didn't want to interrupt.
Oh, I should have thought of that. That's awesome. You need to do more fake news. That's the whole thing. You've got to do more fake news.
Just when they come to me, they don't come to me like they do to you. So,
in other fake news, Major League Baseball will be testing out a few changes in the minors this year. One example, they're moving second base in. Apparently, again, for the last 100 million years, second base has been in the wrong spot. So they're moving it in. Other changes that they are considering. The Yankees actually will be considering a new change in baseball, petitioning Major League Baseball to balance out their vaccine issue. And some of the suggestions, Jays from the Couch has learned, these are some of the suggestions that they want to see. Sorry. All pitchers, starting pitchers, must toss and throw the ball with the wrong arm, underhanded. If we can't bring Aaron Judge, they shouldn't be able to throw properly. Others include Vladimir Guerrero Jr. must hit blindfolded. The wrist device, the Major League catchers are all trying out these little gadgets to send signals to the pitcher. Well, the Yankees insist that the wrist device for the Blue Jays be switched to walkie-talkies so they can hear everything. As well, finally, the outfield wall. They are requesting that the outfield wall be brought in to the infield dirt. All of this because the competitive balance in Major League Baseball has been thrown off because Aaron Judge cannot come to Toronto. Just get your needle, man. Anyway. I mean, I'm okay if he doesn't. I got to be honest. Like, Aaron Judge, you do you, buddy. It's your body, your choice. You don't get your needle. Stay in New York.
And considering how many games he's going to miss anyway, just because he's Aaron Judge, you can't afford to be giving away, 10 games for that. But
yeah,
I mean, yeah, I'm okay with it. Again, I'm not going to try and change his mind. You know what? In fact, you and the other two, Rizzo and who was the other one she said?
Higashioka.
Yeah, well, see, nobody can, that's not going to matter anyway. So anyway, whatever. I'm okay. Yankees, Red Sox, you don't want to get vaccinated, don't come to Canada. That's okay. You'll be watching the World Series parade from your living room anyway. All right. So there's that. And that brings us to the end of episode 292. Before we go, I wanted to share this rocket watching on YouTube. Hey, all, hope you are all well. I do hope our pitchers are ready for the start. First of all, thank you. We're all doing well. And our pitchers, Toronto Blue Jays pitchers, they look to be in good shape. Spring training is, I don't put much stock into spring training statistics and performances. Like guys go out there and they're just going to work on their slider. Or they're just going to work on the changeup, or they're just going to get, whatever done. So spring training is spring training. That's why it's called that, training for the real show. And on April 7th, I believe, I know this is like what I was criticizing some people about and why I enjoy Stacey coming on the show. I'm not being a homer. I really believe the Blue Jays are in good shape and they're entering the season with lofty expectations, and I friggin' love it. So thank you to Steve and Karen for joining me this week, and thank you for those watching at home, Lionheart and Rocket. Thank you for your comments, and for anybody watching, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, Mondays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, grab a spot on your couch, send us a question, a comment, and we'd love to put it up here on the screen and answer it, and you'll be part of Jays from the Couch history in the annals, as it were. So for Steve, for Karen, for Stacey. This is Shaun Doyle. You can follow me on Twitter at DoyleJFtC, hoping life gives you a juicy fastball down the middle and you don't miss it. Take care.